Hey Savvy people, it's Savvy Nick here, and today we'll be going through how to install the latest release of Parrot OS, which is 4.8. We'll first download it, then I'll explain it how to flash it onto a disk, we'll boot that disk, and finally run through how to install it on an empty storage space of your choice. And if you're new and stopping by to watch an install today, please take a moment to subscribe below and hit the notification bell for more installs. I'm here on the Parrot OS website, where we'll go ahead and download the latest and greatest Parrot OS. If we simply click on this Explore Us, it's just going to take us down a little bit so we can see all the information about Parrot OS. And as you can just see a few things here, it's secure, they claim, lightweight, free, and portable, as well as universal. Now I'll let you read up on more of this if you'd like, but what I'm interested in is the downloads page, so I'm going to go ahead and click on download. Here we have a slew of different types of available images for Parrot OS 4.8. And really the two that we're most interested in are the home and security version. So the home version is just the standard desktop version without all the security tools, and the security one is the one that we're going to download and install today, which includes the security tools for pen testing, hacking, and searching for vulnerabilities in systems. So I'm actually the most interested in the security version. They also claim that it's very good for development. If we click on that, you can see here that we have three different options, and they're really just two different desktop versions as well as a virtual machine with the Mate desktop environment. And since they just updated Mate with this 4.8 version of Parrot OS, I'm going to go ahead and download Parrot Security Mate ISO. So we can go ahead and just use the direct download, and our download will begin. You do also have these various different options. If you want to look by desktop, you can look at these two and you'll get the various home and security versions, as well as the virtual image file, which you can easily deploy in a virtualization software like VirtualBox. You also have the net installer if you want to go ahead and use your internet to install all your packages instead. And of course the home edition, which as it says comes with no security tools, making it a lot smaller. Well, let's just give this a few moments to go ahead and finish up downloading. Now that I've downloaded the ISO, I'm going to launch and use the Balena Etcher app in order to flash the image onto a USB or CD of my choice. So I'll go ahead and go down here and just type in Balena so I can go ahead and open it up. Give it a moment here. Balena Etcher is an easy to use application available for Windows, Mac, and Linux. I'll go ahead and put a link in the description below if you want to go ahead and download the application. You can always use any other application that can create a bootable disk, such as UNetBootin or Rufus. So the first thing we want to do is select an image, and that's the one that we just got done downloading. As you can see here, we have Parrot Security 4.8, and this is the 64-bit version of it. So I'm going to be installing this on a 64-bit architecture computer. I'm going to go ahead and open that up. And then next I'm going to go ahead and select the USB, CD, or DVD that I want to flash the image onto. So I'm going to click the change button. And if you already have a USB, CD, or DVD inserted in your computer, Balena Etcher will automatically select it. But you want to make sure to go in here, and if you have more than one drive, select the proper one where you want to flash the Parrot OS install on, because it will overwrite everything on that USB, CD, or DVD to go ahead and place this image onto it. So again, make sure that you select the drive that you're willing to erase all the data off of. I only have the one right here, it's a USB, so it's already selected. I'm going to go ahead and hit continue. Following that, I'm going to hit flash, and then you'll be asked to give administrative privileges in order to go ahead and flash the disk. You can hit yes, and now it started flashing. After you flash the disk, you'll take it over to the computer or server where you want to install Parrot OS 4.8 on, and then insert it. Then you'll have to boot into your BIOS in order to change the settings around and select the newly created bootable disk to boot first. This is usually done by finding the correct key to boot into your BIOS for your particular computer. It's usually one of the F keys, such as F2 or F10. Following that, you'll exchange the order around so that the bootable disk is first to boot. After you have that all set up, you will save and exit out of your BIOS, and you should see a screen similar to this if you did everything correctly. Alright, and if you made it this far, please hit the like button, it really does help me out. Alright, and if you see this screen, you've successfully made it to the install portion. So I have the first option here in front of me, which is live mode, and the system will try to automatically boot into this if you don't press a key or try moving around in the screen, since it has an auto timeout. But I went ahead and stopped that, and the option that we want is the install option here at the very bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and hit install, and then here I have the three options, and the standard installer should be fine for our purposes today. So first we're going to select the language that we want to do the install process with. English is fine for me. Following that, we're going to select our location for our time zone. United States, the default is works for me, so go ahead and select yours. After that, you'll set your key map that you want to use. American English, again, the default is fine for me. Make sure to go ahead and set yours. Some people will notice that this looks much like the original Debian installer with a semi-graphical method here. And now we're being asked for a root password. So this will be the password that you give the system so you can log into your root user. Go ahead and put a password in and then hit continue. Following that, we're going to verify that password and press enter. So next we can set up a user besides the root account so it has non-administrative privileges. So I'm going to create one called SavvyNick. This is just a name for the user, not that actual username that we're going to use. So we're going to hit continue. And now you're asked for the username of the account. So SavvyNick works again for me, and I'm going to hit continue. Following that, we're going to be putting in a password for that new user and hitting continue. And let's verify that password once more. Hit continue. And now we're going to set up and configure our clock. You can go ahead and select a time zone that you're in for your region. I'm going to use Eastern today, and then it's just going to load a few extra components here that we'll need to use for the install. And after that, we're asked how we want to partition our disks. So we really have 4 different options. The guided method for the entire disk, which is the one that we're going to use. But you also have 3 more options. Of course, the manual option, so you can manually partition your disks. This is really for advanced users. And then you can use the entire disk and set up an LVM or a logical volume management scheme, which allows you to change up storage of your disk a little easier down the road if you needed to do so. It also allows you to create volumes for disks and fragment them across multiple disks if you had to. Finally, the entire disk with the encrypted LVM, so you still have that LVM model, but you have an encrypted disk, which will just require you to put in a password both for the disk that you're using as well as the user password in order to get into the system. So again, I want to use the guided and entire disk method. And here we're going to go ahead and select what disk that we want to install Parrot OS onto. If you have multiple disks, make sure to go ahead and select the proper disk because all of its contents, as it says above, will be erased. Meaning any data, any platforms, anything that you have on a disk will be erased. Again, make sure to select the proper hard disk or solid state disk that you have in your computer where you want to install Parrot OS on. And once you've confirmed that, go ahead and press enter on that disk. Next, we're going to go ahead and select a partitioning scheme. And it says that the very first one, all files in one partition, is recommended for new users. And since we're a new user, we're going to go ahead and select the very first option. And finally, here at the end, we're just given a brief overview of what's going to happen to our disk. And basically, a warning that we are about to partition our disk. So again, be certain that you have selected the proper disk and that you're okay erasing anything and everything that exists on that disk. And that's why I suggest using a disk that has nothing on it. So I'm going to go ahead and select the finish partitioning. So one thing that we can do is we can also enable swap space if you have low amounts of physical memory. I do not. I have plenty of memory available to me, so I don't really need to enable the swap space. If you do, you can go ahead and return to the partitioning menu and enable that. But I'm going to go ahead and select no for me. And all that swap does is really just an overflow if for some reason you were to run out of physical memory, which shouldn't really be happening unless you have something wrong with the system or just not a lot of physical memory to begin with. It's again warning us one last time to go ahead and write our changes to the disk if we are confident that we've selected the proper disk and that we're going to erase everything on it. I am, so I'm going to go ahead and select yes. And now the base system will start installing. Just give it a few moments here while it copies things over to the disk. Parrot OS is a distro based off the testing version of Debian, and it focuses heavily on security, privacy, and creating an easy-to-deploy development environment for the end user. There's plenty of tools to use on Parrot OS if you choose to. Some in the security version include tools for pen testing, forensics, engineering, hacking, and privacy. This makes it a great distribution for more advanced users who need advanced tools that can help in becoming a member of the cybersecurity community. It's a great alternative to Kali Linux, and if you're looking for a change, it comes highly recommended by security users as well as developers and is gaining popularity. Following the base install, we're asked if we want to go ahead and install the grub bootloader onto the master boot record. And unless you're installing this alongside some other operating system where you may or may not need a second bootloader, we're going to go ahead and select yes. And now it's asking where we want to install that bootloader. Well, the disk where we just got done installing Parrot OS onto, dev SDA, works fine. Otherwise, if you have multiple storage spaces and you're managing them in a different way with different types of bootloaders from a different location, you can always enter a device in manually. After you press enter, it's just going to run through installing the Grub bootloader, and it'll just take a few more moments here to go ahead and finish the installation. And at this point, the installation is complete and it's ready for you to go ahead and reboot. And while rebooting, you'll want to make sure to go ahead and remove any installation media that you may have in your computer so you don't boot back into the live image or installer of the system. Otherwise, you'll have to reboot once again and remove any installation media in order to get to your newly installed system. So let's go ahead and hit continue once we're ready. Alright, and when the Grub bootloader comes back up, it will either automatically go ahead and select the very first option for you after a few seconds. Otherwise, go ahead and press Parrot GNU Linux and let it load the desktop environment here. Let's go ahead and put our password in for our user that we created. So mine's SavvyNick. Log in. And if you see this screen, you've officially installed Parrot OS 4.8. Congratulations and welcome to your newly installed Parrot OS desktop environment. We're asked a couple questions here. Do we want to check for updates? We can go ahead and put yes in and then go ahead and put your password in order to go ahead and look for those updates. I'm going to do this a little later and then continue on to the second prompt, which is what country and keyboard layout do I want to use? You can also test your keyboard out here at the bottom. United States English works for me. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Let's just take a look around the desktop here at this point. As you can see here, we can put icons on the desktop background here. And we have a few options going around. It's kind of spread out in all four corners here. As you can see, different tools. We have applications in the top left-hand corner, where you can look at all the subcategories that Parrot OS offers you. What's unique to the security version is some of these like privacy, pen testing, programming, which allow you to use tools for each of the categories. Genie's a nice IDE to use if you like programming. Under pen testing, you have various different types of subcategories, which are all different types of tools that you can use in order for pen testing. So as you can see here, maintaining access, wireless testing, reverse engineering, and many more, like information gathering and vulnerability analysis. And under some of these subcategories, you actually have even more subcategories with plenty of different tools that you can look at and choose from to use in pen testing. Of course, the same applies for privacy, but they don't have quite as many tools as the pen testing does. So a bulk of your new tools that were installed with the security edition are going to be right in here. So make sure to go ahead, check those out, read about them, try them out. Next we have places here. It's just a shortcut for some of the most common places used, like home and desktop, networking, as well as the search tool. System allows you to go through between preferences and the control center, which is your system settings. You can also do simple tasks like lock the screen or log out of the current user and even shut down the computer from here. Following that, we have a few quick icons. Firefox, or default web browser, to launch a terminal, and Pluma, a text editor. Up here, you also have a quick view of the current processor in use, so it says 8% in use apparently, as well as the network and the bandwidth currently being used. On the far right-hand side, we have the current date as well as the current connected or wireless connection here. We can adjust the volume as necessary. And in the bottom right, we can enable or disable automatic sleep mode and select between various different types of workspaces if we want to go ahead and work on more than one desktop. On the bottom left-hand side, we have a menu, which allows us to go ahead and search for more applications in here. It is pretty much like everything at the top, just all condensed into this menu. You can log out, shut down the computer, search for items, as well as view all the different subcategories like pen testing. This one allows you to see every single tool that's available instead of putting them in subcategories again. And you can also search for your favorite tools like a terminal. So we have the Mate terminal, since this is a Mate desktop environment. And in here, I'm going to go ahead and just run htop real quick, just to kind of get a feel for the system resources being used up. This is something that many people ask for. So you can see here, our memory is currently 642 megabytes out of the 7.78 gigabytes available to the system. And we're only utilizing about 4% of the 2 cores available to the system. As you can see, they kind of fluctuate between each other, but it adds up to about 4 We have 77 different tasks with 132 different threads running, and the uptime here has been about 7.5 minutes, and we can see all the different processes that they have running in the background of the system. Swap space, of course, is not being used at all, and I don't have any allocated since I do have plenty of memory, since I do have plenty of physical memory. Well, this gives you a general feel for what the system is currently using up. We'll go ahead and exit out of this terminal. And that's about it for Parrot OS 4.8. I hope you enjoyed this installation tutorial, and if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please post them in the comments section below. Also, make sure to subscribe for future videos and make sure to like the video. Thanks for watching.